It's my moral responsibility. Incidentally, as everyone knows, this is kind of a sidebar, but Brenda and I practice this. We practice it at least twice a year, and that is that those people in this community, our faith community, even outside of it, who are not Americans necessarily, and who don't enjoy the tradition of Thanksgiving, and particularly Easter, then what we do, regardless of their religion, race, color, creed, they're invited into our homes, and we share what we have with them. That's what we're morally obligated to do as Christians. Now, of course, the easy thing to do would be with our own kind, but that's no fun. Be that as it may. It's another thing, as I mentioned, altogether, to practice hospitality with other Christians on a personal level. It's all right to do it in theory. It's all right to say World Communion Sunday, we're one big happy family, but it's another thing to say, maybe we're not one big happy family unless you worship at United Presbyterian Church. And I mentioned this once before, and I want to do this because there are some people who have not heard this story, and these two stories, and I want to say them again, that have to do with practicing hospitality, and as a result of practicing hospitality, changing lives and loving people in this church as Christ would have us want people in this church to be loved. And there are two incidents that have happened to me as pastor of this church over the last 18 years or so, and I want to draw on those images yet again. The first, it was one Sunday, and it had to have been, I'm guessing 17 years ago. I looked out my office window prior to the service, and something I saw provoked me, and I started crying because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Now, what I was seeing was two Asian women. One was Korean, and the other was Japanese, and they were walking, holding hands. And they were probably 23-year-old women. They were in graduate school, and they were attending UP. And they were holding hands walking into this church. Now, this would have been in the early 90s, 93 or 94. So that means now, what, 94, 84, 74, 64, 54, 44. 50 years earlier, perhaps their parents, perhaps their grandparents, have been engaged in something quite dreadful. And that was the Japanese-Korean War. And there's no sense in chronicling the atrocities that were committed by the Japanese, particularly toward Korean women. But the atrocities were there, and the division was there, and with older Koreans, it's still there, and I can understand that. But here you had these two women, one from Japan and one from Korea, who had met in this church, and the dividing wall of hostility had been broken down, and they had become friends, and that which had once divided them and harmed them, their families, and damaged their countries, and hurt, if not killed and maimed, countless people, if not millions of people. To these two women who were united in Jesus Christ, that didn't mean anything. All that mattered were these two women coming to church together, united in Jesus Christ, practicing hospitality toward each other because they had received that hospitality by members of this fellowship. That's where they received it, in this sanctuary. They were welcomed by people in this church who felt obliged to be ambassadors of Jesus Christ and share the gospel with them. And so when people say that in Jesus Christ, the dividing walls of hostility cannot be torn down, well, I look at these two women and they certainly can be. If you go to Ephesians, where Jesus is talked about, and he has torn down the walls of hostility that have kept us apart from each other and made us one. And so here these two women were now one in Jesus Christ, even though they came from paths and pasts that were different and filled with great sadness. And if Jesus Christ can overcome that kind of hatred, then Jesus Christ can overcome anything. And it took place here in this sanctuary. The second image that I'll never forget, and I want to bring this to your attention as well. And I've done this once before, but it's worth doing yet again. And that is of Bud Wyman. This was maybe about 10 years ago, consoling his Korean language partner after a worship service. Now Bud is from, and he's not here, and I have it written, and had he been here, I would have said the same thing. Bud is from Pekin, Indiana. Pekin, Indiana is not Manhattan. Okay? You know, where all the sophisticated people live. Pekin, Indiana is not Bloomington, Indiana, where all the sophisticated people live. You know? Pekin, Indiana isn't Madrid, where all the sophisticated people live. Pekin, Indiana isn't the east side of Bloomington, where all the sophisticated people are all the same color, live, and think the same live. Pekin, Indiana is where Bud grew up. And he grew up a hard scrabble life. And he had a difficult life, and he's worked really, really hard. And so what happened is that of all people in this fellowship, Bud, who didn't have the advantage that most of us had of going to college and getting advanced degrees and things like this, because he had to work hard all his life. But Bud decided, he and his wife, because he's from Pekin, Indiana, he decided that he was going to practice hospitality, he and his beloved. And so they took this girl, Suji, into their lives. And they ministered to her, and they loved her for about 3 years as language partner. And as a result, her life was changed, all for the better. And she came to even have a more wonderful relationship with Jesus Christ because of Christ figures. Bud and Lucinda had invited them into their home and felt obligated to let strangers come into their home, that these strangers might come to love them. It's a beautiful story. Beautiful story. And I've asked Bud before from the pulpit, I said, did it hurt you to have foreigners in your home? And he said, no. All he discovered was love. I would hope everybody else could do the same. With that said, in the time of Jesus, no better time to share the love of God and the love of Christ with each other was during a mealtime. Indeed, sharing food with strangers is biblical. It's something that we're supposed to do and supposed to practice regularly. It is Christ-like. For example, asking somebody out to dinner following this morning's worship service that you don't know and they're new in church is behaving like Jesus Christ. That's what it's behaving like. Behaving like Jesus Christ. Because that's what Jesus did. And we're called to be Christ-like. Well, here at UPC, we practice our preaching. We've done a pretty good job of this. Those who seek consolation from Christ will receive such a blessing by the membership here. All who desire spiritual nourishment will receive the blessings of Jesus Christ, should that be something they need here in this fellowship. All in need of fellowship also will be given that as well. And that is because on the night when Jesus Christ was betrayed, he took bread and he broke it. And I would ask that we invite the children to come up now and enjoy Holy Communion. We will celebrate our peacemaking offering immediately following Holy Communion. And we will celebrate Holy Communion in just a moment by intinction. And now, what I would like for us to do is to turn to our sacrament of Holy Communion and to our hymn of preparation and sing together the first two verses, Pues si vivimos, number 400.
Ya sea que demos o que recibamos, somos del Señor, somos del Señor.
Welcome, children. Come up. You're welcome here. Yes. Are you a stranger, Logan?
Not Logan.
Logan's not a stranger, but he's welcome anyways. Sonora, are you a stranger? No. No, you're not. You're known to this church because she has a name tag and that makes her known. There's some truth in that. All God's children get shoes someday, don't they? Let's begin with prayer. Gracious and heavenly God, we give thee thanks for this meal before us. We give thee thanks that throughout this world, men and women and children are all celebrating life in Jesus Christ. We give thee thanks for the gift of Jesus Christ, for the gift of the church. We give thee thanks that there were men and women who were courageous enough to receive into their hearts and into their fellowships people who are different than what they were. And in doing so, the church prospered. We give thee thanks with all our hearts, and we say amen and amen. Dear friends, on the night that Jesus Christ was betrayed, he took the bread, and after he had given thanks, he broke it. And he said, "This is my body. It's been broken for you." And in a similar way, he took the cup and he poured it out. This is my blood indeed, the blood of the new covenant. And every time you drink of it, you do so in remembrance of me. Dear friends in Christ, now listen. Dear friends in Christ, Jesus Christ calls all people to his table, regardless of their background, regardless of their race, regardless of their politics, regardless of their physical condition, regardless of their mental condition, regardless of their ethnicity. We know this in this fellowship. I'm preaching this to the world. Hear me. And so, to celebrate this meal, a woman has come to us from Zimbabwe. A woman is here from the Netherlands. Someone has come to us by way of Texas, by way of China. Someone has come to us from Colombia. Some people have come from Korea. Some people have come from Jordan, Palestine, Lebanon. Some people have come from, there's Mary Lou, South Carolina. And she's welcome here in this fellowship. Some have come from Venezuela. Some have come from Arkansas and Alabama. And all have been brought together by Jesus Christ. That's what Jesus Christ does.